Corinthians 4:7 says, "But we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power of God, or that power may be of God and not of us." You know, the Apostle Paul, when he was writing this, he said, "We have this treasure in earthen vessels." He's comparing our lives to that of the clay pots of the day. But he focused not specifically on the earthen vessels, but on the content of the vessels. It wasn't so much that he was praising the earthen vessels, but he was referring to the treasures that were housed inside of those vessels. Jars of clay, those earthen vessels, they deteriorate over time. You know, certainly some fragments are still around. There's still, you know, if you go to Israel, I've heard that you can pretty much walk anywhere and still find fragments of pottery from the era, but it's deteriorated. It's not the original whole pot in its mint condition. Those things have deteriorated. They have passed away. Jars of clay deteriorate over time. They become chipped, they become cracked, and eventually they break. However, the real value of the pots to the owner of the pot was that which was inside the pot. It was that which was housed in the pot that they found usefulness from. You know, you think about them bringing the water. You know, they would use these big clay pots to go and gather water and bring it. It wasn't so much the pot that they cherished; it was the water. The water is what brought them the nourishment that they needed, or the resource that they needed to carry about whatever task it was that they were performing. We as humans tend to focus sometimes on the frailties or the fragilities of our outward body, or our pot, our vessel. Sometimes we focus on those things. We look upon those things and we look at the imperfections of our decaying vessel. Now, I'm not talking about spiritual imperfections. I'm talking about the imperfections of our body. We focus on the temporal things of this life rather than looking on the substance that is within. You know, when you think about what the world does a lot these days, they want to make this body as strong as possible. People spend hours upon hours working out, eating right, and those are good things, but they spend hours and hours and hours trying to get rid of all the imperfections in this temporal clay vessel and spend less time focusing on that which houses or is housed within the vessel. The inward reality is what matters to God, though. What is housed on the inside, our soul, is what truly matters to God. And ultimately, the character that goes along with that, the traits of Jesus that are housed within our bodies, that's what God wants. He wants us to, again, He doesn't mind us trying to make ourselves better, make ourselves as healthy as we can be. But ultimately, He finds more joy in us making our inward man, our inward substance, more and more like Himself. Because that's what He created us to be like. That's what He wants us to be like. He wants His living presence to be within us, a treasure of wisdom, of power, and of love for one another and for Him. And I think again, just as a reminder to us today, to spend more time working on our inward man than we work on the outward man. Are there any prayer requests for us this morning?